Hello everyone and Madaya! Welcome to this PIA podcast or Pinoy Indie Authors Podcast. So my name is Maita Rue and I'm going to be talking about my book NEPH XY. I am a writer, an art therapist, a teacher, and an artist. And you can see my works here at my website, www.maitarue.com. I'm also active on Facebook. I cross posts in Instagram. I have a YouTube and TikTok channel. And you can see some of my free books on my website. Wait, free? Yes, free. No obligation, no, I'm asking for your credit card, nothing. You don't even have to like me. I am going to ask you to like me if you like my books, though. So I hope you guys get informed if I have new books because I am writing a lot lately. I know I have a slump prior to the pandemic until the first year of the pandemic. But now I am writing a lot more and I have PIA to thank for that. So let us begin. Imagine there's this world, much like our world today, exactly like our world today, with social media and everything. Suddenly, 2035, that's not so far away, creatures of legends came out of the deep and started to attack our cities. But these creatures, they resemble our mythological creatures, the creatures that you find today. That's quite scary, isn't it? The church named them Nephilims. Why Nephilims? Well, I like a lot of Genesis 6 conspiracy, and there's a lot of Nephilims in the Bible. But we are going to be using that conspiracy theory of Genesis 6 because it says there that there were Nephilims in those days and also afterwards. So this is the afterwards. I know this is inspirational, but don't worry. This is not overtly Christian. I'm not that type of person. If you ask my friends, no, I'm not going to be in your face. I'm not quoting Bibles and scriptures and stuff. I am going to be quoting here just because one of my, or let's just say I have 4 very religious characters here. But they will be at the periphery. Our main characters are the children. And they have no idea what the Genesis 6 conspiracy is. You guys will not know it as well, unless of course you read your Bible. But what I am saying is, that's what the basis of my book is. I know it could be pretty scary. And believe me, a lot of the things that I'm reading right now feels like, oh my gosh, we are headed to the apocalypse, as in the days of Noah. And what were in the days of Noah? A lot of Nephilims. The men of old, heroes, the men of renown, creatures that we call the gods. Because, watch your fallen angels, they wanted to be as God. And now you have that. They became our mythical legends. Don't worry, salvation is here. At the same time, the Nephs attacked children, 7 to 18 years old, began to express powers, supernatural powers that can hopefully help and not hinder, and that's why they need training. But not all children starts at 7. Father David here started at 17, so he only had 1 year of his powers, and his powers is actually non-combatant. So his non-combat ability is very useful, especially in today's world. But he's already old. He doesn't have his powers anymore. Then you'll find out what he knows because he went into holy orders. He knows the ins and outs. Children, by the way, because only children had the powers, we were dependent on them to fight the Nephs. So bullets and stuff, they don't really do much when you kill the NEPHs. You need children whose powers are to kill NEPHs. So that would be more explained. I think I didn't explain it as much. I left it more to people to wonder, why not? Why not just have a gun or a bullet, blast them? It will be explained more in the coming books. Right now, it's just an accepted fact that if you're not an angel touch child, your bullets don't really do much. They might slow them but not kill them. Alrighty, so who are they fighting against anyway? So we have 3 main bad guys and 3 goons. The goons, of course, will be just doing the bidding of their masters. These 3 will be in the next 3 books over and over. You have Astarte, Baal, and Dagon. Yeah, very much Genesis 6 conspiracy indeed. Those were some of the original Nephilim, but they are not gonna be... So I'm putting them like Generation 1, Generation 2, Generation 3. The higher in the generation you are, the more powerful you are. This Baal is not of the first generation. So it is implied here that he just took on the name. He's like how many generations later? And you will find out what the significance of these generations are. I think I'm giving clue to the title, XY, as in chromosomal XY. And it also has another meaning to it. Because X, X means you're against. And Y is because Yah, as in Yahweh. So the Neph is battling God. And, Genesis 6! Anyways, let's start, shall we? I'm very passionate about my books, and this is going to be a new series. Hopefully, it will continue after the 3rd book, but I'll leave that to inspiration. Sometimes inspiration just hits you. You don't know what hits you, and this is one of those it hit me. So I'm going to be reading Chapter 3, Training. So this is very pivotal, such that it shows the relationship, or the going to be relationship, between Stanzo and the children of the orphanage, who will be the characters of this book. Yes, I know there are a lot of characters, but Stanzo, our main character, has to rally around these children. Remember, they're gonna save a whole country, much less the whole world. So he really needs to train them. So let us begin. The wind howled outside. Was there a storm? It was not raining, but there was a definite chill. Stanzo sat on the edge of his bunk, the thin mattress creaking under his weight. He stared into the dim glow of a flickering lamp, shadows dancing erratically on the crumbling walls. His chest felt heavy, a familiar burden that never seemed to ease. The thought of training the orphans gnawed at him. These kids who could barely control their powers, much less wield them against NEPHs. What did he know about guiding anyone? He could barely keep himself together. Stanzo! Where are you? Stanzo, they're coming! NEPHs everywhere! The nightmares were relentless, creeping in every time he closed his eyes. He saw his brother's face, pale and distant, swallowed by the void, and Stanzo was powerless to reach him. Tonight was no different. In his sleep, he was trapped in the familiar nightmare, his giant form crashing through the endless darkness. The NEPHs closed in, shrieking, claws tearing at his skin. But suddenly, a soft voice cut through the chaos. Kuya, wake up. His eyes snapped open, breath ragged, heart hammering against his ribs. Elijah, one of the younger orphans, sat beside him, his small hands resting on Stanzo's arm. The boy's dark eyes were calm, too calm for someone who had seen the worst of the world. Kuya, it was a term that meant big brother or elder brother. Follow me. Elijah said. Stanzo followed, not knowing what else to do. They went downstairs. "You're having a bad dream," Elijah whispered, his voice barely audible. Stanzo blinked, disoriented, sweat dripping down his brow. The room was quiet, save for the occasional rustling of the other children asleep. He stared at Elijah, struggling to find words, but all he could do was nod. Elijah's hand lingered on Stanzo's arm, and the panic that gripped his heart began to fade. Slowly, Stanzo looked down at his own hands, knuckles bruised and aching, a physical manifestation of the fight within him. Or maybe he flailed too much and banged it on something. He hadn't even realized he was clenching his fist so tightly. They ended up in the kitchen. Everything was silent. Without saying a word, Sophie, the older girl who always kept to herself, approached. She went beside Stanzo, her hands hovering over his. A faint light, soft and warm, emanated from her eyes. She took her tears and rubbed it on Stanzo's hands. The bruise began to fade, the pain ebbing away. Stanzo watched in stunned silence as the healing light mended his wound. For a moment, all he could do was stare at his now unmarked hands. Sophie pulled her hands away, retreating into the shadow like she always did. Stanzo could see the uncertainty in her eyes. She was still learning, still struggling to control her powers. They all were. He noticed a girl named Jael. Jael is one of the older girls. She was 15. She was boiling water, except there was no fire. It was a reason why he didn't notice her. She was in the dark with the other children. When she was done, she offered everyone a boiled egg. Everyone sat on the floor for a midnight snack. "You kids," Stanzo muttered, his voice cracking. You're amazing." Stanzo looked at them, Elijah with his gentle guidance, Sophie who could heal with just a touch, Jael cooking, the other children. He wasn't quite sure what their powers were, but he could feel it. They were fragile, yet resilient in ways he couldn't comprehend. For the first time he saw them not just as a group of misfits thrown together by circumstances, but as a glimmer of hope. Stanzo rubbed his face, the weight of his doubt pressing in. He had never asked to be a leader, never wanted this responsibility. But these kids, they had no one else, and maybe, just maybe, they needed him as much as he needed them. When he finished his egg, he glanced up and saw that he was back in his room. There was nobody there beside him. He looked down to see eggshells in his hands and knew it was not just in his head. He let out a long breath, eyes closing briefly, as he pushed back the darkness threatening to consume him. "I'll try," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. "I don't know how, but I'll try." As the night stretched on, Stanzo remained awake, watching over the island through his large bay windows. He wasn't sure what tomorrow would bring, or if he was even the right person to guide them. But as long as he was there, he would fight for them, just as they had, unknowingly, began to fight for him. So thank you for listening to me. There is more to chapter 3, but I wouldn't be reading too much of it, or otherwise this will be very, very, very long. Just take note that the rest of chapter 3 really is the children beginning their training, and of course, nothing is ever smooth. Stanzo will be very frustrated because you have children from 7 to 15. So Stanzo is older, he's already 17. The rest of the children will be around 15, 16, and a lot of the children will be younger than that, of course. And you're going to teach them to control their powers. He barely controlled his when he was 7 and he turned into a giant. So Stanzo's powers is turning into a giant or a capre. So thank you to PIA. This is the third PIA collaboration where this book is. We would like to thank Mayumi Cruz, who is the pillar of PIA, the one who spurs us on, the one who actually takes the time to remind us, to promote us, to guide us. I mean, I feel like I'm a baby writer in her care. I know I've been writing for years now, but with her, I'm learning a lot more. So thank you very much, Yumi. You are the boss. And for those who want to read my books, my other books, I am on Amazon. Yes, I also have my free ones. You can also find me around town. I am in Metro Manila and in Davao, and I will soon to be in various websites, including the PIA website. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Here are my contacts. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you, guys.